Welcome to the In Your Element Fertility Podcast. I'm Jennifer Edmonds. I'm a yoga teacher, Pilates instructor, meditation and breathwork coach. And for the last 15 years, I've been helping women on their journeys to motherhood and beyond. This is the podcast that blends both science and spirit with everything you need to know as you navigate your fertility journey. If you're looking for a way to support your physical health, your mental health, reduce anxiety, and reclaim some joy back into your life to make the process of trying to conceive feel easier, then you've come to the right place. I'll show you how to apply the latest scientific research along with your energy and mindset to provide you with all the tools you need as you're trying to conceive. This is the In Your Element Fertility Podcast. If you have experienced pregnancy loss and have spent any time on social media in the last couple of years, it's highly likely you've come across today's guest. You may know her as Hey Loss Mama. Hailey Brissette-Mathias is outspoken, unapologetic, and exactly the person that you want around if you are navigating the grief of losing a baby. She's able to speak to the depths of this experience in a way that has resonated with me and so many women around the world. She's also incredibly articulate and humble, and I think this is the conversation that every woman who has been through loss really needs to have. This is a heavy conversation. It's one about grief, about life after loss, about coping with the uncertainty of your future when everything that you wanted has been taken away from you. We speak about how we can do better as a community to support lost mamas, how you can better advocate for yourself within the medical system, and how to move forward with the heaviness of grief that's left behind. So as Hailey would say, buckle up, because this is a conversation that you're not going to want to miss. Hailey, I'm so excited to have you here. Thank you for giving us your time, and it's wonderful to see your beautiful face. How are you doing?
Oh, it's such a pleasure to be here. I was so excited when you told me that this was like a journey you were going to take, because I feel like your page is so good for the community, and this is just an elevation of your gifts that you can share. So thank you for having me. I'm good. We're hanging in there. Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month. I feel like October has been a year.
It is a year.
It is. It's a year in itself.
It is. It gets bigger every year, which is kind of a good thing, because I think there's more people being aware and being comfortable sharing. But it's a lot.
It's a lot, I think, for everybody. And, the beautiful thing about our community is that it's such a haven for people to speak openly. But then at what point does it become this echo chamber? And at what point do the people who are not aware because they haven't had to experience it actually lean in? Because we're all fucking aware. Our awareness is because of an actual life experience or multiple life experiences, as opposed to I saw this post on social media that talked about awareness. I'm weird about awareness stuff, but I think you know that. I'm pretty open about that on Hey Loss Mama. People don't like that, and it's okay.
But that's the whole point. It's yours. And I guess that's what we're trying to do with awareness months, right? It isn't for the people who have been through the issues. It's for those who haven't. And being able to give those people tools to connect with those in their lives that have been through it and to support them in better ways. Yeah, right. It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's very taxing. It's taxing to be the one experiencing it every day and living it. It's taxing to have to also feel like you have to advocate for yourself and for other grievers and for other lost parents. And I feel like this month just has this underlying, but yet also in your face heaviness to it. Mm-hmm. That I would say probably everyone feels in their own way. I feel like everything is energy. I'm very woo. I know that you know that, but you can feel the energetic shift even within the community itself when we have awareness weeks or days or holidays. And no matter where you fall on why it exists, or it's just, I feel like it hits different every year. And it's just kind of wild because it just says, it's not there's no finish line of I won't feel this again, because it is so much ingrained in our lives, because it's part of who we are. that like it's a weird, daunting thing to know that like we'll make it through October, but then it will be back.
Mm. I think for most of the people listening to this, they're going to have come across you, and I'm be surprised if people haven't. But for those who might be new to you or haven't heard your journey, do you mind sharing a little bit about who you are and what brought you to
Yeah,
today?
for sure. So I'm Hailey. I go by Hales. Most people call me Hales. Hailey, I always feel like I'm in trouble. Like when my husband calls me Hailey, it's like Hailey, you didn't do the dishes. Like, you know, so I prefer Hales. I feel like it's more casual. I became a lost parent in 2021. My daughter Hayden was born still into this world on July 17th, 2021, here in Arizona. She she's a force and she's changed my life. Most people, I would say, probably know a lot about that. So for just like a highlight of prior, I grew up not wanting kids. I was never that girl or woman or whatever that was like, oh, I can't wait to be a mom. And not because I had a problem with motherhood or I found it to not be fulfilling for people. I just was never something that I felt this like deep call. And I know that a lot of women feel that way. And I think that society also ingrades that to us, but that's a conversation for a different day. But I'm a step parent. So I got a glimpse of parenthood without ever wanting it. I always said I would never date someone divorced and with a kid. And I literally married someone who is divorced. And I'm a second wife living the best second wife life. And I have a stepson, and my stepson is 11, and I've been in his life since he was 1. So I've gotten to witness parenting from a step parent lens, and boy, has it prepared me for being a lost parent. There's so many parallels to step and loss. So we decided in 2020 when the world, you know, lit on fucking fire, that maybe we had an opportunity if we wanted to have our own child together and just be the change we wanted to see in parenting. You know, we got pregnant really easily. I had like a textbook pregnancy, like there was nothing wrong, you know, whatever that means now. But, and I went in for a just appointment to fill out benefits paperwork, and they couldn't find her heartbeat on the Doppler. And, you know, like nonverbals for me are so much more than sometimes verbal communication. And like you watch all that shit, you watch the tech change because they can't really say shit to you, but like then you're also just like sitting there in this silence, and then they offer you water, and I was like, gross, I don't want your tap water, like I have my filtered water right here, like why would you offer me water? And then they're like, well, let's go do like a vaginal ultrasound. And I knew then that like this doesn't feel right because it was just so, it just, the energy shifted. This was in 2021, so I wouldn't like, COVID wasn't as big of a deal in Arizona as it had been in 2020, but they still had very strict COVID protocols. So they did the ultrasound. You heard those words, there is no heartbeat. And I remember, sometimes I feel like it was yesterday, and sometimes I feel like it was decades ago, but I don't think time kind of stops while also moves when you hear those words. And it was my first pregnancy. Like, you don't know what to expect. And I have a completely different lens on how the rest transpired now than I did in the moment, because you just don't know. So I was sent home and basically told that like they couldn't get me until Friday to induce me, because I was like obviously too far along for any other option. And Hayden was on that line of miscarriage and stillbirth in the US at 20 weeks. So like I don't really identify with any of those medical terms for anybody, because I just feel like they're so dismissive and put blame on the woman. But she died and I had to give birth to her. So that was a really long week because that was on a Tuesday, and it was the day after my husband's birthday. So like it was this weird. So they share a birthday week and month, my little July Cancer babies. And so wild. So we got checked into the hospital Friday, July 16th. They ended up messing up my induction. We had to start over in the middle of the night. It was absolutely horrendous. We had one night nurse. Her name was Kylie Williams, and my maiden name was Williams. So it felt very like serendipitous, and in that sense that like we had someone there, and she was so kind. And she had told us that she had wanted to be a nurse the night she delivered a stillborn baby. And that's what she decided in labor. So it was just like this she was a cathartic part of all of that. I digress. And then the next morning I got an epidural around 3. And then Hayden was born into this world still at 8:32 a.m. on July 17th. And I feel like, it's October, right? October 2023. So she would have turned 2 in July. She was due on Christmas Eve. So that was like a weird thing because like I'm not a Christmas person. I know that people are going to come that's like Swiftie level obsession. People that are obsessed with Christmas. I think it's a cool holiday, but I'm not weird. I'm weird about gifts. So Christmas was even harder that year on top of like everything else. My husband and I were very committed about I didn't want to try again until we got answers. Like I've always been like a type A. I have a plan A to Z to make sure everything works out. A control freak, a recovering perfectionist. And so I saw I want to say 7 to 8 doctors in what would have been Hayden's first year of life, REs, fertility doctors, everything you could think of. And tens of thousands of dollars later, because the American healthcare system is fantastic. We do a really great job with credit cards. We just can't figure out how to do. I was killing it in that arena. We ended up finding out that I have a bicoordinate uterus, which is a heart-shaped uterus. For people that don't know what that is, apparently it's like 1% to 2% of women that have it. Now that stat feels weird to me because that would require us to actually do the research to know that information, but we don't do that. I feel like, it required an MRI to find out if it was like a septum, which you can get removed, or the shape that I have. It happens when you're in utero. So I was basically told by all the doctors that if I wanted to ever have a biological child, that I'm the perfect candidate for IVF and surrogacy because my body, but because of how aggressive the shape is not equipped to carry a baby full term. I was told to expect a NICU baby if the baby even lived that long. Now you don't want to hear that, right? I remember laughing at the doctor being like, if I had 150 grand to just jump into IVF and surrogacy right now, we'd already be deep in it. We'd already be moving forward with that. And if I was in a mental wellness place, empathy and compassion really lack in the medical community. And I obviously can't speak for where you are in Australia, but it lacks here. You have these really cool providers, I think, that can make a difference, but sometimes it's their job. And you almost want them to be clinical because you want them to do a great job of what is expecting, but it's hard to sit in front of someone and have them say that to you as easy as them ordering their lunch. There's no level of how we should be speaking to patients. So we took that information, we sat on it. And then in September of 2022, we were like, let's try one more time. Let's just see what happens. And again, I've never had a problem getting pregnant, right? We got pregnant with Hayden our first month trying. It happened very quickly. So we were like, maybe that will happen again. It did. And we found out in October that we were pregnant again with a due date right in July around Hayden's birthday. So we were like, oh, this feels so meant to be. Oh my gosh, how cool is that? And then obviously, as you know, and then for anyone that doesn't, I miscarried on Christmas, which was absolutely horrendous because my in-laws were staying at my house. My stepson is at our house, and it was Hayden's due date the year before. So it just felt like a slap in the face. And I'm laughing so I don't cry for the people that are watching this, wondering why I'm humoring this, but dark humor is still a major coping mechanism for me. And that was fucking traumatizing. And it gave me a glimpse of a first trimester miscarriage that I didn't have before. And even prior to that, I never understood why there was so much judgment amongst the level of a loss, how people look at that. well, if the farther along you are, the more detrimental. You just don't know because you don't know until you experience it. And to have to give birth, because I really do believe that all, babies have to be birthed regardless of gestation, of how far along you are, because I just don't understand how that's not, you have contractions. I was literally contracting in my bathroom. I thought I was going to bleed out. That's a traumatizing situation because when we found out that Baby Love didn't have a heartbeat anymore, my provider, which was a brand new one, was like, well, it'll be like a heavy period. And I remember looking at her being like, bitch, I am balls deep in the lost community. Like, this is not real. Like, this is not real. Why did you just say that to me? And it wasn't. I literally, I probably should have went to the ER. I lost a lot of blood. I had to buy all new rugs. It's like those weird things that like you don't think about. And it was a completely different experience from giving birth to Hayden in a hospital because that was so traumatizing to give birth like that, to hold your baby, 10 fingers, 10 toes, eyes, nose, ears, and to hold them knowing that they have to go. And to, we got to spend a couple of hours with Hayden, which was so beautiful. But like Baby Love was a completely different experience. I was just under 10 weeks. But like the gestational sac came out in full. Like people don't realize how traumatizing that can be. And when it happens in your own house, like I still don't drive past the hospital that I gave birth to Hayden to. It's like I just don't want to be anywhere near it. And so I'll avoid it. I feel like I can't avoid my master bathroom, so, triggers and coping and dealing with all of that. And so after that, I kind of, in January of this year, which would be 2023, January, February, I finally got the courage to tell my husband, I just don't want to do it again. I can't be pregnant again. And that's a weird thing to say out loud. I know that a lot of people have gotten a lot on Hey Lost Mama, of people that are like, well, you haven't even been trying that long. I know there's so many people that have spent a decade trying. And I just know that I'm not equipped for that because when I was able to finally say that I don't want to be pregnant again, it was like a weight was lifted because like there was so much shame around feeling that way. And I feel like we, deal with these really intense internal narratives that are like, can be very intrusive and like negative self-talk. And you just play it over and over in your head. And like we were open to exploring other options. And we have, as you know, when you're forced to look at other options, you know everything about them, which makes it more insulting when people are like, well, have you tried? Or have you thought about, oh my gosh, it's like they say it to you as if they like invented the next big thing, like, or that they just cured cancer and they were sharing it with you. And you're like, yeah, I have 7 spreadsheets about it. And I've probably spent more of my life reading into every nook and cranny of what it would entail. And people, God, I feel for the people that have to deal with that shit all the time and haven't found the courage and the confidence to tell people to shut the fuck up. Cause it's a hard thing to do because we're so ingrained to have kids as women. And if you're not, you already feel like you can't do it right once you've experienced loss. Like you already feel like there's something inherently wrong with you. And I was sick of feeling like there was something wrong with me. And so this year has been this like journey to like self-love again, because you've spent a lot of years hating yourself and hating that you're incapable of doing something that you were basically told your whole life that like is your sole purpose. Like whether that be from like all the Disney movies that we all grew up watching as millennials, or just, I just talked about this in a post, how like we were given baby dolls and easy bake ovens and kitchen sets and told you're going to be a great mother one day. And I have a little brother, and I'll tell you right now, he wasn't given any of that shit or told that he was going to be a great father one day and had that be part of a narrative. So that's my story. As of right now, the journey that I'm in is a pathway I wasn't expecting. And it looks like it's going to be childless, our child together. I'm very much a parent to my stepson. I very much believe that. I like the term bonus parent better because step has such a negative connotation. Thanks, Cinderella. But, I'm trying to figure out what this season looks like. And if the question of, can I find joy and fulfillment in a life after loss, knowing that a living rainbow baby is not my future. And what that looks like and how to cope with that and how to share that part of my journey without, destroying hope for everybody else. Because it's a lot of pressure when you're like not the story that people want to have happen, because every single lost mom that I met when I started Hey Lost Mama in 2022, every single one of them has a living baby after loss. And when I was pregnant with Baby Love, so was so many people, and they all had living babies in the summer, and that was rough. That happy for them, because it's a genuine joy. It really is. I'm evolved enough in my grief that I have genuine and authentic joy for them. But it sucks when it's not you, when that's what you want or desire.
It really sucks. Thank you for sharing so openly. Trying to hold back a few tears.
Oh, cry it out, girl. Cry it out. It's been heavy for everybody.
So you started Hey Lost Mama last year after
loss. Wild.
Yeah, it feels like a long time ago.
Girl, you're telling me.
Why did you start the page? What was it that you felt called to put out there that you weren't seeing elsewhere?
When Hayden died in July of 2021, I really went into hardcore, cocoon hermit. And I did a lot of inner work, a lot of shadow work, a lot of turning my lens inward, just because I couldn't even manage to function in society. I ended up leaving my corporate job that I used to love. I made it back 6 weeks. I couldn't even do it anymore. And, we had been in a position where we had saved up for me to take a year off of work with the hopes that would be to take care of Hayden. And, obviously, spoiler alert, that didn't happen. So I was off for all of 2022. And so it was probably January 2022 when I finally was ready to connect with somebody. I don't have people really in my life that have experienced any kind of loss or infertility. My mother-in-law is one of the only people that has my husband's little brother died at 2 days old. And his name, totally rough. He'd be my age right now. And then she had had multiple miscarriages before she had my husband. So she understood. But even then, you're talking about a 33, hindsight. And when you're in it, and it's my mother-in-law. So there's only so much you can share. And she's been such a beacon for me, but also I was looking for someone that I could talk to that would get it. When you meet a lost mom, and I didn't realize this was a thing, obviously at the time, but and you just are wow, you can just see my heart in a way that I haven't felt seen. And so I was well, there's got to be something on Instagram. I really wasn't a big social media person before, but I was maybe this is the world that we live in. This is the equivalent of a dating app. There's not a dating app for lost moms yet. I'm sure someone's working on it and literally trademarking it now. But where you swipe right for depending on what you're looking for. Maybe we'll do that. Maybe we should do that as a business venture. And so I started, it was called Healing with Hales at the time, because that's just what felt good. And I just started posting how I felt, and I didn't really know what it would be like. And then I would just talk to people, people would message you. It's just such a bizarre thing that we live in this world, cause it's such a cool thing, right? That you can talk, the fact that we're speaking, right, on opposite sides of the globe. And I realized very quickly, and this has always been a theme in my own life, that I don't have a filter, and I usually see things differently, not in I don't mean that in a arrogant way, but I have always just looked at things from a bird's eye view. And it's been a blessing and a curse, where I just see things from too many sides and I don't understand. And I like to play devil's advocate, because I enjoy healthy discussion. And I think that sometimes all of us get very tunnel visioned in the way that we approach things. And so, I was sick of doing that with people that didn't understand what was going on in my own life. And I was just hoping to find a lost mama that had dark thoughts. I was very, very dark and very deep in that darkness even when I started Hey Lost Mama. And I was just hoping that I wasn't the only one that was struggling so much, not because I wanted someone else to be struggling, But sometimes, not sometimes, I would say the majority of the time, especially in that first year after whatever your loss looks like, you feel so isolated. And it's such a polarizing feeling. And I was ready to not feel so polarized and isolated because I already felt that way within my own community, in my own family, with my own friends. And now looking back at that time, it's not that it's not anyone's fault. It just was. That was just the season of my life. And people don't want to have to sit with you in that darkness because they probably are unwilling to sit with themselves in their own darkness. So when you're reaching out for help and you're in like this pit of like dark smoke and everything feels suffocating, people don't know what to do because we were not taught. We were not equipped with emotional toolboxes the way that we are now. I would say that we're able to parent these upcoming generations or just be more evolved in how we connect. And I had a lot of big feelings and I just was looking for someone to validate them. And Hey Lost Mama started to do that. But what I didn't realize is how many women are lost moms. Like, you start, the algorithm is very concerning because it's so on point, right? But like you just see all these things and you start to meet these people and you're like, what in the actual fuck? Because my doctor made me feel like this never happens, or lightning doesn't strike twice. Like all those stupid things that we've all been told by typically a provider or like someone where it's just so dismissive and it makes you feel like because it never happens and it only happened to you, you'll be fine, but you're not fine. Like you're not fine. And you can't talk to somebody who hasn't gone through something in any kind of similarity and expect them to get it. Like I would never begin to opine what it would be like to have cancer or because it's not an experience that I've walked. And I was looking for maybe some empathy because I was sick of sympathy. And that's a fine line that people don't understand the difference. And I was sick of being told I can't grieve anymore openly. And I feel like when I get told I'm not allowed to do something, it makes you just want to do. It's like, don't press the red button. Oh, I'm going to press it. I'm going to press it 7 times because you told me I couldn't. And that's what Hey Lost Mama has been. It's become a place where I would like to think that people have been able to find a tribe of other lost moms. And I share very openly. I would say probably more than is probably deemed appropriate, which is fine. Because that's relative. You're laughing, but it's true. People get really uncomfortable with a lot of my posts. I remember the first post where I used the word fuck and I got like, people were like, I can't believe you're saying that. I'm like, sometimes there's not another word. Like there's not another word that's going to do it justice except for fuck this. And I don't believe anybody if they said they have not said fuck this since their baby died or if they struggled with infertility because it's fucking bullshit. Like there's no other way to put it. But yeah, Hey Lost Mama, it's kind of, it's its own beast, I would say. It has its own energy. It has its own soul. And I don't know if it's like a mix of Hayden and I's souls, because I think that Hayden definitely finds the babies to like nudge their moms or dads, right? To come to that page. And, I used to really believe that I could create a safe space for people. And I hope that I can to a certain extent, but I've also realized that like everyone has a different idea of what a safe space is.
I think you definitely do. It is definitely a safe space. And like you said, when you do lose a baby, you are told you can just get pregnant again or, just,
Yeah.
you can start trying again in a few weeks. You really are told that your feelings are not worthy and it's so dismissive and it's so isolating. So I think what you've created is incredible. And thank you.
Oh, thank you. I'm really, it's evolving so much. And I really feel very called to make it about like sovereignty, like lost mama sovereignty from whether it's like a social norm or someone that doesn't understand you, like whatever that means to the lost mom, because we spend so much time talking about our babies because nobody else does. And I mean, I talk about Hayden every single day or in any way, and it all changes and everyone gets to do it their own way. But what I've realized, and just like in traditional motherhood, whatever that means, is that yet again, the mom's forgotten because it's all about the kids. And I don't think that's anything different with babies that have died because no one else is doing it. So you feel this, like, it really is this instinct to like protect them and share them and carry them with you, however that looks like. But at what cost to you, right? And I think that in infertility and loss and recurrent loss, and when, I think we all feel like, didn't we suffer enough? Why can't we just have this? Like, why is it so hard? Why is it so hard for some people? Why is it easy for others? Because you even watch those things play out in the community. Like, you don't even realize sometimes what people are struggling with even after loss, because we all want the same thing. Like, we have to stop sugarcoating it. We all want to have a living baby after loss. There's not one person that I've interacted with, and I've interacted with 100,000 women by this point in some capacity. We all want that. We all desire that, but not everybody gets it. Not everybody gets it right away. Not everyone gets it in the way that you thought you would. There's so many other pathways to motherhood: adoption, surrogacy. There's other ways, but they're not always the right fit for you and your family. And what might make sense for you might not make sense for somebody else. And so there's a lot of that in the loss community. And Hey Lost Mama is very diverse, but it's a weird thing to witness because the moms are always the lost moms, right? All the moms, they're just moms. They're all still putting themselves in a backseat in so many ways. And I want to change that. I want there to be these like moments of empowerment that like, you also are worthy of being seen and having a voice and sharing that voice. And sometimes that voice is going to be about your baby that died, but sometimes it's going to be how you've grown and how this has impacted you. And you're allowed to openly speak about how you feel after this. And it doesn't always have to come back to your baby because it's all relative and everybody matters. And I feel like we even forget as women, as lost moms, that we matter too. And I just like that feels like what is going to evolve with Hey Lost Mama, because with the nonprofit, with Hey Lost Mama Foundation, like I get anxiety thinking about creating care boxes and comfort boxes. And there's so many badass lost mamas doing amazing things like that do the cool, but like, I can't even, like my brain can't compute doing that. Like that didn't feel right for me. And, there's all these other things, but then I kept coming back to like the lost mom. Let's take care of the lost mom. And like the baby's always going to be incorporated because that's part of them. It's part of their life, just like a living child is, just like people that are dog moms, they want everything in their life to be, it's cohesive, and it doesn't have to be as compartmentalized as we make it. But the foundation literally is retreats for women. And they're not always, the main focus is going to be that woman and cultivating connection and community amongst themselves. And then knowing that, finding a way to make them see that they're enough too, even after loss and infertility, because it really weighs you down. It just beats the shit out of you on a daily basis and your self-worth, because so much of our worth as women is tied to motherhood. And when you don't do it the right way, then you're looked at as like there's something wrong with you. And I been there and I'm still there. And so, we all still struggle with those narratives, but trying to reframe that. So these lost moms know that they matter too. Their baby matters, but they also matter. And I don't want to see that forgotten.
And it's very important. And that leads me to my next question. You are very outspoken about the way the medical system treated you. And I think that's wonderful that you're outspoken about it. Not that they treated you the way that they did.
I didn't think that's what you meant.
But as a community, how can we do better your situation is not unique, and perhaps some countries in the world handle these things better than others, but on the whole, I don't think any country really collectively does a great job of it. So what would you suggest? Is it a starting point
the
to
medical community?
Yeah, as a community,
just medical community.
Let's influence medical training schools and send you in to do some training with them. But no,
no, I think unfortunately it really does start with people who are willing to advocate until it happens to you, and that is for anything, right? You're not aware. You can't be aware unless it happens within your 6 degrees, right, of separation, if not to yourself. And I think that the more we talk about it, the less it will be stigmatized. But that's going to take a lot of time. I think supporting nonprofits that do advocacy, like Push for Pregnancy, Count the Cakes, like those women who are in charge of, they are badasses and what they do. And it's like, I think it's those little steps of just getting involved to a level that feels good for you, that you can, because everyone's idea of involvement is different. And everyone's emotional, mental, financial, physical means of being able to support and make changes is different. We have to be, and I think we have to learn as women that we are allowed to advocate for ourselves and stand up for ourselves and say no or push back. And because I would say, in America, you are not really allowed to question the medical community in any capacity. And I've always never understood. I'm such a firm believer that if something tells me, whether it's an institution, whatever, that I can't ask a question, then I immediately have like 10. Because if you're telling someone that they are not allowed to question, then what are you hiding? What is it that you don't want people to know? What is it that you're incapable of asking? And so I think we have to empower women who are in these situations, especially who are looking to try again, that they are allowed to change providers. They are allowed to not feel good about a scenario. They are allowed to openly complain about that. They are allowed to say no. They are allowed to get a second, third, 10th opinion, and that their voice in that matters, because no one else, I think that we all have learned the hard way. I will say that I learned the hard way that they don't actually care about you, not because they're bad people. And like, I don't mean it like that. There's amazing people out there, but collectively, we have to remember that healthcare is a business, and it will always operate as a business first and foremost. And that's in any country, because it's not free. Like, we have to fund it. And there are ways that people go about doing that. And there are things that are pushed on women or not pushed because they're going to make money off of it. And if you say no to something, you're costing them money. And so we have to empower each other to know that our voices are important and we're allowed to scream as loud as we need to. And I think it starts with us. I know that's one more thing that you take on, no matter what you're fighting for. But I think it's not going to change unless mass groups of people take the small teeny steps for it to change. If that answers the question.
Of course, it answers it beautifully. Coming from a place of empowerment and knowing that the only change can come from you. I speak to so many women and so many of my students who have been in those positions where they just feel like they're a deer in headlights, with their doctor.
100%.
And then they leave these appointments and they think, oh, where do I go?
Exactly. Totally. Because they make it confusing on purpose, in the sense of, like, because we're not allowed to question authority or push back. And these systems have been in place for a long time. And so, generationally, prior generations were told they weren't allowed to speak up, and they listened. But I think the internet kind of broke everything. I think that the internet really sped up evolution of human beings, blessing and a curse, right? But because now, whether it's the right information or not, you can be the smartest person in the room if you know how to use your iPhone. You can get information like this if the Wi-Fi isn't ruining your life, right? But like, so people now are preparing themselves with questions, and sometimes they may be off base, but how do you know? Because no one told you that you were allowed to ask them. But people are going to start doing their own research because it's readily available to them. And that, I think, is what has broken all of these systems and structures that we have been used to, because now it's like, well, I don't believe you because I read on here that might not be the case and there's something else we could be doing. And nobody was prepared for that. And especially not people in positions of power, because a doctor does have power. Anyone that goes to a doctor's office, they, by definition, know more than you in that field. That's what they have done their life's work for. Just like we all get to have something, right, that we know. There's always going to be someone bigger, faster, stronger, smarter, always. But it's just how it is. But I have never thought to question doctors or the medical community or anything until Hayden died. Because when you're told, oh, well, we don't know, it was just a fluke, you're like, I can't say that at my job. Someone couldn't die at my corporate job and then just be like, oh man, it happened. Like, let's rehire and try again. And, you know, prior generations will look at you like, well, you can't look at it like that. How else do you want me to look at it? If you were to exchange the story and replace it with something different, it would be appalling. We would do something about it. If all of a sudden there was a plane crash every week for a year where people, I think you've even talked about this, and there were 400 people dying every week, you don't think that we would, I don't know, maybe look into the plane, maybe look into what protocols were in place? But for whatever reason, because women's reproductive health is not a priority, even though that's literally how we're all fucking here, it's just crazy that like, it's like, no, it's not that big of a deal. It happens all the time. Or they tell you it doesn't happen all the time. And it's whatever fits the narrative in that moment, which leaves the patient confused. So does it happen all the time, or does it not happen all the time? You don't know what happened, but I still have to pay you for this. Like my tax dollars are still going to this, or I'm paying you out of pocket for this. Like, you know, I understand that there's gray area in the medical community and there's so much that we don't know, and no one's going to have all the answers. But I think we could do better than it was a fluke. I think that there's so much more proactivity that could happen in women's reproductive health. There is no reason that at the age of 32, I found out the shape of my uterus. Like when I go to a woman's appointment every year since I was 12, that there isn't things put into place, or that for fertility, that we aren't being tested when we get like what it looks like to track it, that you have to wait a set amount of time. Oh, if you don't get pregnant a year, like, why do we have to be reactive? You're creating these instances where you almost create an instance where you want them to doubt themselves. So then they come to you for more, as opposed to getting ahead of the game and making women and their partners, whomever they are and however their journey is, feel comfortable with literally how we procreate, like with how we all exist in this space. It's just crazy to me that we don't prioritize women's health. Because if men were the ones having kids, there'd be 7 of us. We wouldn't be having this conversation. Like, I love my husband to death, but if he gets a paper cut, it's the end of the world. But he's like the strongest person I know, but like, he's sick. But like women, we deal with all these crazy things, and it speaks to the strength of all of us. But sometimes we don't want to have to be so strong on just something that should already be prioritized and probably better regulated, in the sense of like, we should have more power and autonomy to make our own decisions. And we should have providers that are partnering with us in those endeavors, as opposed to discarding, minimizing, dismissing our concerns. Because how many women have you talked to, Jen, that they literally knew something was wrong and their doctor dismissed them, and then 24 hours later, they're delivering their baby stillborn? Because nobody wants to listen to the person with the baby in their body. You don't know anything. You didn't go to medical school. But I'm telling you right now, from an intuitive place, that something is wrong. And there's no trust anymore. I don't have trust in the medical community because of what we've endured and how many doctors we've seen and how much money we've spent and what that has looked like for us. And I know that I'm not the only person that shares that view, but I know that's a big thing to say because you're speaking out against a massive conglomerate and something that prints money and is a major business, while also there's so much beauty to it, but there's so much work that could be done to better support women and their partners, in their fertility journey, whether it's an easy journey or a hard journey or one that never fucking ends. There needs to be better support from the get-go, because you shouldn't. I think so much of what women struggle with loss and infertility in the aftermath is that you feel so blindsided because no one fucking told you. No one told you that any of this could happen. You were just literally told that you get pregnant and then you have a baby and then that's it. I wasn't told that there were all these possibilities and all these ways that babies could die. I had no idea. And that's not a testament to my ignorance. That's a testament to the ignorance of what we don't tell women and what we don't share. And if I would have rather been scared, and if I hate hearing like, oh, we don't want to scare pregnant women, we need to scare them. We need to scare people because it's realities that actually happen all the time, every day. It's not about scaring them. It's about educating people so they know what can happen, so they could be proactive with everything that goes along with trying to get pregnant, being pregnant, and what that looks like after, whether your baby lives or dies, because you're still going through postpartum, whether that baby is alive in the next room or not.
Thank you. It is a perfect storm, a perfect shit storm of shit.
It really is. Yeah. Yeah. It's wild. And it seems to be not just America that has, like, we have our own slew of issues, but like, it seems like, to your point, collectively, and there's no country that's like nailing this. That's like, has it, there's no blueprint, there's no, and like in America, Viagra is covered, like erectile dysfunction is covered, but like fertility you're paying out of pocket for. Like, it's those kind of massive discrepancies of like, it's very hard, because if it was about women and if it was about babies, then we would have better systems in place to support women and babies in these journeys. And I'm just, maybe I'm negative and maybe I'm pessimistic, but I also think that sometimes your experience dictates the way that you look at the world. And I haven't liked what I've seen. I just haven't, from that perspective.
That is.
I think there's always room for improvement. I think it's silly to think that like you'll ever reach, I feel like when you reach enlightenment, that means you get to be like a dog. Like you get to be like a golden retriever who like lives with this like rich family and like has their own boat at a beach. Like I feel like that, that's like when you're reaching it. But like, we're never going to get to that level of perfection in massive systems because there's too much corruption. Human beings, we're special. But I think they're just, we have not evolved in women's healthcare, and we watch this play out in the lost community so aggressively. And I know that I'm like the tip of the iceberg for what women have experienced, especially in the infertility realm, especially IVF, all of that. And I have not endured IVF or IUIs. It's not something, because getting pregnant is not my problem. It's not a pathway that I've had to experience. But hearing the stories of so many women that I love and adore and what they have to go through, and you shouldn't have to question if you feel supported by your medical team. You just shouldn't. It shouldn't even be a thought. But unfortunately, it's like thought number one. And thought number two is, how much is this going to cost me?
Yeah. Hailey, I have 2 more questions and they're related. So we'll start with, can we talk about grief?
Yeah.
And how has your life been different? What does it look like since your losses? and how's it changed you?
Oof, grief. I don't think, I know there's mixed opinions on if grief makes you a better person or not. I think that there's like, I have a depth to me and my heart that I don't think I had before, not because I didn't have any depth, because my best friend committed suicide when I was 24. So like that was my first real experience with grief. And that's such a different grief than what I'm experiencing now, but that really opened up my world to grief. But grief, I think grief is like, how do I put this? It has like a soul of its own. And I think it's very normal and for you in the beginning to want to push away grief because it's so much. It's so heavy and it can feel like you have an elephant sitting on top of you and you don't know anything about it. You don't know why it's there. Like, you know why it's there, but like you can't penetrate it. And I feel like I know that I had these, like, I was like energetically blocked off to feeling my grief because once you open up that door, right? Like once you open up your heart really to accepting the thought of accepting that grief is now part of your life, there's no turning back. And I've always described it as like you're like Alice in Wonderland, like you're just falling, except like no one's giving you snacks or drugs. You're just like sober and experiencing this free fall. And I don't know if you ever hit the ground or the bottom of it because I think grief evolves with you. And it took me months to realize that like grief isn't going to go anywhere and that it's just like part of me. And some days I can hate her because I very much feel like grief has like female energy. I feel like I always refer to her as she because I think that women and feminine energy have a full range of emotion and don't have tunnel vision and we just see things with a different depth. And grief for me is like the epitome of like of a woman in all of her glory, but also all of her darkness and sadness, because it's just this like ball that consumes you. But then some days it's dormant, like not like you don't feel it, but I had to invite her in and I had to actively do that because I think that I had created walls against her that she had been trying to knock down and I just wasn't ready for it because it hurts. And grief has changed for me, but it hasn't gotten any smaller. I'll say that grief has felt different. You know, I feel like once I'm like, I got this grief thing down, you know, she's like, just kidding, bitch, you know, and then she changes, you know, I feel like she has to have a sense of humor. I've learning, I'm still learning, it will be lifelong, how to incorporate her in my life and not have her take over it. Because in that like immediate aftermath, right after, like you don't see anything outside of you feel like you're never going to smile again or laugh again. And I hated when people tell me that I was going to, because it's like, obviously, but like, this isn't the time. And I remember the first time I like laughed, like truly laughed after Hayden died, I felt guilty and I cried and I was like, oh my God, I can't have joy. Like I can't feel this. My daughter said, how could I be laughing? And I feel like that's the dark parts of grief. And there's a beauty to grief. I think, I don't know if it's made me a better person. I think it's made me look at things with different depth. I think there's parts of grief that have made me do a lot of like self-reflection and, you know, go back to times where I might have not been sensitive to other grievers because it wasn't something that I've ever had to truly experience. But I think that for people, we all want to push her away, but she's not going anywhere. So you have to figure out a way to be friends with her, even if you're like a frenemy for a while. Like even if you like let her in, but she's going to consume you until you learn how to live with her. And grief changes your lens on the world. I think that I know that I was always an empath. I feel everything. And this has impacted me to a point where I've had to learn how to set up energetic boundaries to not take on everything else, especially with Hey Lost Mama. I literally, every time I get on there, I like imagine like a golden light around me that like can't be penetrated, because in the beginning, I would take on everyone's stories, and it's draining. And when when people forget that you're a griever too, that like you're also trying to like figure it out, that you're not just like this content creating robot. You're here because like your kid died. And grief has to be something you invite into your life, and it won't get quote unquote easier to manage or feel or deal with until you open up your heart to her being there, because she's going to be there anyway. And so you can't treat her like the boogeyman under your bed that you don't want to deal with, right? Or in your closet, like when you're a kid. You have to treat her with the kindness and love and respect, because I think that grief has become a mirror for me of like, grief has shown me other things I need to like heal and work on that I probably wouldn't have seen in that same light, if that makes sense.
It does. And I think when we are talking about grief, and, people say things like, oh, it's time to move on, or,
from what to where? Like, where am I supposed to go? Exactly. Like, what do you mean? Like, exactly. I don't get it.
But we forget the whole reason that grief exists is because of the most intense love that you have ever felt. Yeah. And why
people don't want to see it that way, because then you have to acknowledge that it could be real. And I think that is just another testament to people when they're uncomfortable with their own big emotions for whatever reason. They can't take on yours. Mm-hmm. And I think it's hard for people to see people in pain. We're a society that likes to fix things.
Yeah.
And grief can't be fixed. There's no solution. And people have a hard time with that. Mm. People that love you don't want to see you in pain but in reality, the best way to love someone is to allow them to be in pain and sit with them through it. Mm. And I think that we solve a lot of problems. I mean, sometimes I wish everyone was a griever. I know that sounds really awful, but I've even said, like, I don't want people's babies to die, but maybe for 15 minutes, you have to feel what everyone feels, because maybe that create more empathy. Like, no one actually dies. No one would actually, but like that you have to feel the weight of that, because you can't, I just feel like there's only so far you can go in empathy unless you have walked it in some capacity. That might be wrong, but sometimes it feels that way.
I agree. And what you said before about, perhaps people who have a terminal illness or are experiencing cancer, and you can empathize with them to a point, but it isn't until you have been through that experience. And not that we are comparing baby loss or infertility to cancer, but
it's all fucked up. Right? It's all fucked up. It's all fucked up. And like, you have to, it truly is about holding space for people and their emotions and their grief and whatever that looks like, because every single one of us is different. Every single one of us has a different makeup, a different alchemy, a different way we look at life, a different way we were raised, all these things. And then we all come together with a commonality in the loss community, right? In the infertility community. And I think even sometimes we forget within the community that we still are such different people. And this is something that brings us together. And we have an opportunity, I think, as grievers and lost parents, to show an example to people who are not in those situations of what two people with different backgrounds, different family, like different everything, but are able to find a common ground. And because their lens on the world has been tainted, nobody I know, and I don't even know if I believe them, which is probably an issue in itself, if they said, like, people that have experienced loss and infertility, you don't just all of a sudden forget about it and then like get pregnant again and have it be joyful the whole time. Like, so much innocence is taken away from these two things into the rest of your life. And there's a massive ripple effect that happens after these things. And grief doesn't go anywhere. And grief is that ripple effect.
It really is. So grief is, I would assume, one of the reasons that people reach out to you and come across you. Yes. And I want to talk a little bit before we finish about social media. I feel like it's a blessing and a curse, as you've said.
It is. I love it so much. And also sometimes I want to blow it up.
Yeah, totally. But also, where would we be? Where would all these women be without it? So
Crying in a corner still. I would be crying in the corner still. Wreck it like every day, like all the time.
All the time. So if someone is in this place, maybe they're new to this experience and they have come across amazing accounts like yours, but then they also come across people who trigger them and don't say the right thing. How do you suggest that people navigate social media if they're dealing with loss?
Oh my gosh. So I think my opinion on this is going to be pretty controversial, but I think this is also just my own evolution with grief and navigating social media. I would say in the beginning of if you are turning to social media after you've had loss right away, I think that you do certain accounts just pop up in the algorithm because they've been around my account is relatively new compared to a lot of other ones. And you find them, and I think this probably applies to everybody. Let me scratch that. This applies to everybody. We are adults with free will and autonomy to what we consume, what we see, what we, dive into when it comes to social media. And in the beginning, triggers are so aggressive because you don't know what triggers you yet because this is a brand new experience. And I've scrolled back to the beginning of my page and read through and been like, fuck, like, because you see your own evolution when you share publicly. It's right fucking there. And so much of it still applies, but so much of it I view differently. But that's because I put in the work. Like unfortunately, there's a lot of work that goes into being able to function after loss and infertility. But when you first come onto social media, I think I have so many messages I haven't read, and that like breaks my heart. But I haven't been in a space to give them the respect and space that it deserves, that they deserve, their babies deserve. But like, all I could hope is that people find something that just makes them feel like, okay, I'm not crazy. Sometimes just seeing those posts, I think that I would assume what people do. Like what I did is I would look up like miscarriage or stillbirth. And you look at the hashtags because I didn't know there were accounts. It was something brand new to me. And so I'm assuming that's what people do. I would think that's what I did. And then you see all these posts from all these different people and you find the one that resonates. But I think you have to take what you need and leave what you don't. And that's a really hard thing to navigate in grief in the beginning when you're just looking for support. And everyone's in a different part of their journey and everyone deserves to share that part of their journey. And with social media specifically, people forget that it's your page. Your page is your page. You are not responsible for making sure everyone feels good 100% of the time. You're not responsible for making sure that your posts don't upset somebody because you literally can't control that. And what I've seen happen with social media is that when I do get people that troll me or send me very aggressive messages about how I triggered them or something, I totally get it. But I don't know. I can't be responsible for managing and mitigating other people's emotions. And I don't know what other people's boundaries are or what their triggers are. And people get so mad at me, but I tell them you just swipe, you just do this. If you see something you don't like, because not everyone's going to resonate with you, but it's very challenging when you become part of the lost community. And I think I did a post about this right before I took my social media break of what do you do when a lost mama that has saved you in so many ways and resonates with you posts something that makes you want to fucking scream and throw your phone against the wall? And my advice is always going to be don't fucking engage, because it's okay that they don't agree with you. It's okay because their life is different than yours. And it's not a personal attack. It's just them sharing their opinion. And when you get messages of like, just trying to help, if you're going to tell someone that they can't share something, no matter what it is, you don't have to agree with it. But like, I think that we forget on social media that like we all don't agree anyway on everything in life. Like, and then we just assume because we want to assume, right? We want to think that because we're all lost parents or we're all infertility warriors, that every other lost parent or infertility warrior feels the same way you do. And it's very hard. It's a fucking slap in the face when you realize that's not true. And I would say that all of us go through that very frequently. And sometimes it happens with people that we're close with. And you're like, what? Or you watch who was like you were super close with, but then your paths take different. And then what? You know, are you able to handle that or not able to handle that? And I would like to hope that within the lost mom community, there's more empathy and grace towards one another and ourselves. But people navigating social media for the first time, just like buckle up and scroll and only click on things that are called to you. I ask Hayden for everything to guide me places. Not everyone believes in that. Not everyone has to believe in that. That's totally fine. But I'm not religious. So like the religious lost mama pages, they don't resonate with me. Not because I think that lost parent is stupid. I think she's fucking amazing for sharing authentically and using her voice to make a change. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to agree with everything she says. And that's okay. But I always try and tell people, find a lost mama that resonates with you because there are so many people that get bothered by the fact that I say fuck all the time and they can't see past it. And that's okay. Then don't. Then I hope you find someone that does click with you because we are all different. We all are going to share differently and no one gets to be you. And I always tell people when they're like, should I start my own page? If that's going to help you, I think you should. But just know that like no one's going to do it the way you do it because you are unique. And that is the beauty of social media, that we can all be saying the same exact thing, but we're all going to say it differently because we all look at life differently and our experiences are different. And no one has your light. I believe there's enough room for everybody in the social media world. Like, because there's no one else that's going to be you, what you do, the way that you share your light shining though, and its authenticity, even if it upsets people, even if it makes people feel seen, you're still showing other women, probably not even realizing it, that their light gets to shine too. And that's for me will always be the win of the lost community, is that I was able to watch other women share so unapologetically and authentically that I was able to dive back into my journals and start sharing openly because I didn't talk to anyone for months after Hayden died. And I remember when I was miscarrying baby love, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to share this. And then I was like, maybe I won't because I hadn't announced anything. But then I ended up sharing immediately because I was like, someone's going to need help from this. But then there's going to be someone that's triggered from it too. But triggers are ours to manage. And people don't want to hear that because it sucks. It sucks. Being triggered sucks, but being triggered is your thing to manage. If you trigger me, Jen, I'm not going to send you a message about it because that's not your problem it's not yours to manage. I'm going to take a step back. I'm going to turn my lens inward and say, okay, Hills, why are you triggered by this? What can we do to get you to a place of neutrality with this? What ultimate truth are you telling yourself that's not really an ultimate truth? What limiting belief? What is happening here and here? And this is probably fucking you up. So like, let's listen here. But social media can be a very scary place when you feel unsafe, when your nervous system is frayed, when you are in the throes of grief or grief waves. And I would just tell everyone, just always proceed with a little bit of caution. Because I'm telling you right now that nobody who's sharing openly wants to hear a novel about how you triggered them because they're struggling too. They're hurting too. And everyone deserves a space in this world to share. And it's really just about finding the people that you vibe with and that give you good energy. And that's allowed to change too. And I think in this community, it will change. You're not always going to resonate with the same people. I've had to unfollow a lot of people because I wasn't in a place to handle what was happening in their life. Not because of them. That's 100% me. But people don't want to have to take that kind of accountability for their own shit because it's hard to deal with. It sucks. Triggers suck.
It's hard. And it's not something we're taught to do either.
Oh,
we are
God,
so
no.
reactive.
No.
And yeah.
We push it under the rug, or you're super duper reactive. No one was taught to sit with uncomfortable and big emotions or ask yourself why you're feeling that way. And sometimes I just have to journal on that. Like, I just have to like, why do you feel this way? Is it really an ultimate truth? Do you really think that person posted that or said that to offend you specifically? I would hope not. I would hope not. And assuming that, it's just going to cause more grief and more strife. I just want people to be able to share what they want to share and have people take a step back. But it's hard. And triggers are hard to manage until you realize that you're already doing it. Because the growth comes when you realize that if that would have happened a month ago, you would have lost your shit, right? But this time you're like, okay, that sucks. But that's growth in you. And those are gifts. I feel like I don't like lessons. I hate well, look at what you've created against a Hey Lost Mama. If Hayden didn't die, I can't. Because guess what? If I had to choose between Hayden being alive and knowing all of you, love you all, wish you the best of luck, not a thing. Not a thing. They're not directly correlated for me in that way of like, well, Hayden died, so I had an opportunity to do this. Because what Hayden's death has taught me and what she has taught me through her gifts after all of this is that maybe I can help people. And it might not help everybody, but if I can help one person, and that was always my goal, to just like make one other person know that they're not the only person struggling with something. And if I can do one person, if I can make one person feel seen a day, even if I don't know that it's happening, even if I can just feel it, like, oh, this helped somebody, then I'm already doing more than I could have ever wanted anyway.
You do. Thank you for sharing your light with the world, Hales. Thank you for being so unapologetically outspoken and badass and amazing.
Thank you. I hope so are you. Let's be clear. And I think when you show people that it's okay to do that, I think you give people permission. I don't think people need the permission. I don't think anyone needs permission, but sometimes you have to watch someone else doing the hard things so you know that you can do those hard things too in a way that feels good for your heart and soul, because we all are going to move through the world differently, and that's what makes it cool.
I feel like this is the conversation that every lost mama needed to have or needs to have with someone. So I hope that everyone listening to this feels validated and seen, and know that there are people that empathize with what you're going through. How can people learn more about you? I will, of course, link Hey Lost Mama down in the show notes. But how can people learn more about your foundation or get in contact with you?
Okay. So I will probably merge my Instagrams because I am not adult enough to run 2 Instagrams. One is enough. So at Hey Lost Mama, and then heylostmamafoundation.org is everything. The foundation focuses on retreats. We had our first one in August. It was so amazing and like so life-giving, even though we talked about death the whole time. Hello, hashtag being a lost parent. Dead babies were the topic of conversation, but it was like the most beautiful day. And so hoping to have more of those. I want to do them in different states, but that's how you can learn about that. And Hey Lost Mama, just at Instagram. I would love to be cute and do like Facebook and Twitter and Threads and all these fucking other things, but I'm an elder millennial struggling. So that's where you can find me. Hey Lost Mama is the best way. Instagram at Hey Lost Mama is the best way. You can DM me. I try my best to answer them in a timely manner. It's not real. I don't do business days anymore. This girl left corporate America and never looked back. So I do it based on what I can handle. And that's where you can find me and all of my controversial opinions.
Hail, thank you so much for being here. You're incredible.
I appreciate it so much. I really appreciate being here. I'm so excited for you on this journey and can't wait to listen to all your episodes.
Thank you, my love.
You're welcome. We'll talk soon.
Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. If you loved what you heard, be sure to share it with me by leaving a review so I can keep all this information coming your way. If you aren't already following me on social media, check the links below in the show notes to join me for more daily tips to support your fertility journey. And don't forget to visit my website to learn more about how the beautiful practices of yoga, meditation, and breathwork can support you as you're trying to conceive. Until next time, sending you all my love. The most common thing I hear from students who are on their fertility journey is that the stress of trying to conceive has taken over their life. Your days end up being filled with endless appointments, navigating pregnancy announcements. You're trying to eat right, take all your supplements, and it is all you think about from the moment you wake up. I designed the Element Fertility Yoga course to support your body, your mind, and your mental health in 3 important ways: to synchronize your hormones, increase circulation and blood flow, and to help regulate your nervous system. But on top of this, the greatest gift that you can give yourself throughout this journey is a sense of peace, to help you calm your mind and just make this process feel easier. Every single one of my students tell me that this is the first thing they notice after starting a yoga, meditation, and breathwork practice. But on top of this, you have the amazing benefit of actually supporting and increasing your fertility. Studies have shown that those participating in Mind-Body programs as they're trying to conceive have success rates 3 times greater than those who don't. The course I've designed walks you through natural conception as well as fertility treatments and IVF cycles. And the best part is you can work through it at your own pace in the comfort of your home. The practices start from just 10 minutes per day. To learn more, visit elementpilatesyoga.com or see the link in the show notes.